be a transfer out of the other components of equity to retained earnings to reflect excess depreciation. To reflect excess depreciation. So there can be a transfer out of other components of equity to retained earnings to reflect the excess depreciation. So the depreciation as charged on the revalued amount was 1/9 of 27, which is 3. The depreciation based on cost would have been 1/10 of 30, and therefore the concept is that because of the revaluation there has been excess depreciation of 1. Because of the revaluation there has been excess depreciation of 1. That has given you excess depreciation. Oh, sorry. Yes, of course, the actual asset originally cost 20. I don't know where 30 came from. So yes, you're correct, 20. Yeah, 1/10 of 20 is indeed 2, thank you. And therefore the excess depreciation is 1. The movement on the reserves is that you are reducing your other components of equity by 1, and you are increasing your retained earnings by 1. Those of you who know the code, those of you who know the double entry, that's a debit and a credit. Yeah, you're debiting and you're crediting. So when you think about your other components of equity, there's the year 1 gain, and the year 1 gain we put in was 9. It would then be the transfer to retained earnings for the excess depreciation, and the transfer is 1. And then we've got the year 2 gain, and the year 2 gain goes in at 8. So the balance on the reserve is 16. The year 2 balance is 16. So the movement on the reserves. The movement on the reserve.
So when you want to, you can use 17 or 16. When we can use this for the utilization or transferring this depreciation?
Well, I just think it's sensible. I just would always do it. Strictly speaking, it is not required by the standard. But, you know, when I see questions, it is something that is normally done. So if I'm engaged in an exam question and there is a revaluation, you previously revalued it, then the concept of excess depreciation is, I think, part of your answer and relevant. So this transfer, by definition, this transfer is happening in year 2, in the second year, because that's the balance, because the revaluation takes place at the end of year 1. The excess depreciation doesn't happen until year 2. Yeah? So the depreciation is happening in year 2, that's the excess depreciation. So this is a transfer taking place in year 2. Yeah? Good, right. I'll get you to do a couple of examples in a minute, but just before I get you to do a little bit of work, I would like just to talk to you about revaluations. I'd like to talk to you about revaluations. I'd like to have some land, which is PPE, and the cost is 10. Year 1 fair value is 15, and the year 2 fair value is 12, and year 3 fair value is 7, and year 4 fair value is 20. There is a rule which can be very easily oversimplified. And the rule is, take your gains and losses to OCI. Take your gains and losses to OCI. If you're revaluing property, take your gains and losses to other. I agree, that is the rule. But sometimes, in the detail, we can apply a little bit of common sense, because there are occasions when the gain or loss doesn't go to other. But the general rule will work 9 times out of 10. What's the gain in year 1? 5. Yeah? So we've got a gain here of 5. Where does that gain go? P&L or OCI? OCI. It goes to OCI. Of course it does. That's the rule. Oh dear, year 2, you've got a loss. Oh dear, year 2, you've got a loss. Where does the loss go? OCI. Of course it does. That's the rule. Gains and losses go to OCI. That's the normal situation. Year 3. How much is the loss? 5. Yeah. Once you've exhausted the reserve, yeah, you're hitting the P&L. Once you're exhausting the reserve, you're hitting the P&L. So you have got 2 that you can take to the OCI, because then you've exhausted the reserve. So you end up charging 3 to the P&L. So there is a circumstance when you charge a revaluation loss to the P&L. In fact, there's also a circumstance when you take a revaluation gain to the P&L, when the revaluation gain that you're taking to the P&L is a reversal of a loss that you previously recognized in the P&L. But it just sounds so complicated to say, and it's so simple to see. How much is the gain? 13. 3 to P&L. 10 OCI. Gains and losses go to OCI. Gains and losses go to OCI. But it is possible that you can take a gain to the P&L if it is a reversal of a loss in the P&L. So, basic rule, gains and losses to OCI. But gains to P&L, if they are a reversal, of a loss in the P&L. If they are a reversal of a loss in the P&L.
I've got a question. What about in year 1, if it was instead of 15.8, so would we go to OCI or P&L?
Whoa. So you buy it for 10? You buy it for 10, yes?
And in the first year?
And in the first year it becomes 8. So how much is your loss? 2. What's the balance on your reserve? None. So where do you take the 2 to?
That's what I want to know. OCI or P&L?
What's your intuition?
P&L.
Correct. Yeah? Because you know you haven't got a reserve to hit it with.
Okay, so the OCI always exists if there's a reserve in the first place. So that makes things easier to understand, right?
Say it again for me slowly.
So the OCI would make sense if there's a reserve in the first place, so we can work things accordingly.
When you've got a gain of 5, there's no, you're recording the gain of 5 for the first time, so you are recognizing that gain of 5 in OCI and in the reserves. And then you're up and running. and so you take the losses to the reserve. But once you've exhausted that reserve, you end up back to P&L. If there's never a reserve there in the first place, then you end up charging it direct to P&L.
So if you work things accordingly with the reserve, so things will be more easier to comprehend. You can work things accordingly, like you said, my tuition is right. So
Yeah, yes, but basically you're not looking for a negative reserve. Yeah. Basically you're not looking for a negative reserve. Good, okay. Now there's a couple of other examples in the material. I don't want to spend too long on PPE, but I think it would amuse me if we did, if I got you to do a small example. And that small example is, let's do page 65. Now let me keep half an eye on the time. 7:24. What time are we breaking? What time are we breaking for prayers? 7:30. 7:30, okay. Right, let's do a very quick example. Let's do page 66. Let's do half. Let's do page 66. Let's do half. I think this is an example that maybe you could do in 2 minutes. I could do in 2 minutes, and then we can take a break. So page 66, the question is half. Page 66, the question is half.